The signal pierced through the vacuum of space, like a scream in a cathedral. Sharp, ancient, final. A frequency so precise, only civilizations capable of cracking cosmic codes could even notice it, let alone understand it. And the message was chilling in its simplicity. To those who find this, you have sealed your fate. Earth has fallen. Humanity is gone. And it's her fault. 700 light-years away, aboard the Dominion-class battleship Archon's Pride, the Zarnathi High Council listened in silence. Not because they feared the humans, but because they had thought them extinct for over 300 cycles. Impossible, whispered Admiral Kvoth, his tendrils tightening in instinctive dread. They should have burned in the purge. But humans had never followed rules, never stayed dead, never obeyed the logic of galactic politics. They adapted, they evolved, and when cornered, they bit back. Inside that haunting signal was not just a warning. There were coordinates, a location, something humanity had left behind, a data vault drifting in orbit around the scorched ruins of Earth. But even encrypted, it pulsed with energy no one could replicate. "What is this signature?" muttered Chief Technologist Zira. "It's rewriting itself every second, as if it's alive." Kvoth leaned forward, mandibles twitching. "Send a drone." "No, send a team." They didn't know then what awaited them. They didn't realize Earth hadn't died. It had transcended. And that transmission? It wasn't a cry for help, it was a trap. The last line of the message, often ignored, became clearer only once the team had arrived. "We are the ashes you tried to bury, and we are the fire that follows. Run." Like where this is going. Then you're going to love what comes next. Subscribe to the channel for weekly HFY stories packed with vengeance, survival, and human defiance against impossible odds. Like this video if you believe humanity would never go down without a fight. Comment below. What do you think humanity left behind in that vault? Share this with your fellow sci-fi lovers, and let's spread the fire across the galaxy. Earth, once the cradle of humanity. Now, a ghost planet wrapped in radioactive storms and scorched continents. The skies are cracked with ozone lightning. The oceans boiled into acidic clouds decades ago. No ships leave her orbit. No life signals remain. By all known metrics, she is dead. And yet, she speaks. The year is 3124 by Terran reckoning. The Galactic Concord had long since expunged Earth from its stellar maps, labeling it a Class X biohazard zone. Unauthorized approach was punishable by planetary exile or disintegration. The Purge Wars of 2891 were still whispered about in alien war academies, how a backwater species with primitive tech resisted extinction, costing the galaxy trillions in resources and lives. They called it madness. They called it stubbornness. But humanity called it survival. What the galaxy never understood was that humans thrived in chaos. Their most beautiful inventions came during their darkest hours. Nuclear winters gave birth to cold fusion. Plagues led to quantum immunology. And war made them clever. So when the purge came, when armadas blackened their skies and cities were atomized, they didn't run. They prepared, not to win, but to remember, to endure. For centuries, humanity had been the inconvenient anomaly in the galactic order, unpredictable, ungovernable, and unbreakable, until apparently they were broken. Now, over 200 years later, the signal has emerged, a pulsing beacon from the grave. Its frequency is designed to bypass all known encryption. Its language adapts to the listener. Its payload contains not weapons but ideas. Human ideas, resistance, rebellion, revenge. The high races believed they had won. That Earth's silence was proof of their success. They were wrong. This is the story of Earth's final transmission. A warning, a trap, a message wrapped in a myth. This is not just a tale of human extinction. It's a tale of human ascension. A tale that will change the fate of the galaxy. Because when you push a species to the brink and they leap forward instead of falling, you don't get peace. You get retribution. The stars above Sector Varnes, for had always been quiet. A dead corner of the galaxy, once home to a vibrant blue planet now reduced to scorched rubble. For over 2 centuries, Earth had been a ghost. its coordinates redacted from star charts, its name reduced to a whisper in alien war colleges. No patrol dared enter its orbit. The Zarnathi Empire, who had led the last wave of the Purge, had placed a standing kill order on any unauthorized vessels nearing its remains. And yet, on this cold cycle of the third moon's rotation, a signal broke through the silence. Aboard the patrol ship Alarian, Ensign Vritak was performing routine data sweeps when the anomaly flashed across his screen. A frequency so ancient it wasn't even in their current databanks. At first, he thought it was solar interference, a background pulse from a dying star. But the wave pattern was too precise. Every few seconds, the signal would repeat, not with static, but with encoded structure. A modulation sequence wrapped inside a collapsing quantum fold. It was a message, and it was coming from the orbit of Earth. Vritak called in his superior, Lieutenant Jarrus, who immediately ordered a full-spectrum scan. The signal was narrowband, low power, but incredibly stable. It had no visible source, no satellite, no beacon, no ship in orbit. It was simply there, originating from a specific geostationary coordinate directly above what had once been Earth's North American continent. The lieutenant initiated decryption protocols. The computer struggled, not because it couldn't break the code, but because the signal was constantly adapting, as if it knew it was being observed. Soon the message began to take shape. Not in words, but in intention. Emotions flooded the decryption algorithms: rage, sorrow, defiance. The signal was not artificial in the traditional sense. It was alive, behaving like an entity rather than a broadcast. Lines of ancient Terran script began to emerge on their main display, translated by the ship's linguistic AI. The first readable phrase made the crew fall into stunned silence. To those who find this, you have sealed your fate. The words weren't a greeting or a plea. They were a verdict, a judgment carried across the stars. Lieutenant Jarrus, seasoned by 20 cycles of interstellar peacekeeping, felt a chill ripple through his spine cluster. This was not the aftermath of a dead world. It was the echo of something unfinished, something dormant, something that had waited. The crew debated whether to relay the discovery. The Dominion had long declared Earth irrelevant, a biological wasteland. But this changed everything. The message hadn't degraded over time. It was precise. Timed. Triggered. The decision was made. The Zarnathi High Council was informed, and before the signal could finish its final loop, it injected a set of spatial coordinates into the patrol ship's core systems, coordinates that didn't point to Earth, but to something orbiting near it. A construct or vault, unidentified, cloaked, and ancient. The Alarian was ordered to hold position. A task force would arrive within days. But for those aboard the patrol ship, one thing was already clear. Earth had spoken. After centuries of silence, it had finally answered. And it was not asking for help. It was declaring war. Within hours of receiving the Earth origin signal, the Zarnathi High Council convened in an emergency session deep within the orbital bastion of Koth-Erwin. High Admiral Kvoth, who had personally overseen the final bombardment of Earth 2 centuries prior, sat in grim silence as the transmission replayed for the 100th time. Around him, delegates of various galactic powers, Arkini strategists, Ishul technocrats, even 2 Varnan oracles, argued over implications, threats, and the unspoken possibility that humanity had not been truly destroyed. Though the Purge had left Earth in ruins, the signal's sophistication and eerie precision suggested more than a mere artifact. It was too calculated, too adaptive. There was purpose behind it. Reluctantly, the Council agreed. An expedition would be dispatched, not to reclaim, but to investigate, contain, and, if necessary, eliminate any residual threat. A special team was assembled aboard the cruiser Vormekth, a vessel outfitted for deep research and hostile recon. Its crew was carefully chosen from multiple species, not for diplomatic balance, but for utility and expendability. The mission commander was Captain Selin Drake, a hybrid-born Terran descendant whose human lineage made the Council uneasy, but gave her a unique psychological edge. She was joined by Ziranal, a Shul cyberneticist with an unmatched ability to interface with ancient systems, Commander Thrix, a reptilian Vornak tactician whose species once fought alongside humans before betraying them in the final days of the war, and Yelvan, a silent Varnand empath whose sensory network could detect emotional residues in the void of space. Their mission was simple on paper: retrieve the source of the signal, secure the data vault if it existed, and neutralize any sentient system that could replicate or broadcast further. But the crew knew better. Every member of the team felt the unspoken tension. They weren't being sent to retrieve something forgotten. They were walking into the aftermath of something that had never truly ended. As Vormekth entered Earth's long-abandoned orbit, the planet loomed below them like a bruised god. The once blue world was now a seared mass of molten fissures and dust storms. But the signal was stronger here, pulsing in waves that made the ship's quantum core vibrate ever so slightly. It wasn't just calling, it was waiting. They located the vault in high orbit, a massive, jet-black structure shaped like a fractured prism, completely invisible to visual and thermal scans until they were almost upon it. No propulsion, no power output, yet it hovered in stable geosynchronous orbit as if gravity itself obeyed its design. As their shuttle approached, Ziranal activated a soft dock sequence, only for the vault to respond before any command was given. A small hatch slid open, seamlessly, as if the structure had been expecting them all along. No atmosphere inside, yet none of them hesitated. Captain Drake gave the order, and the team stepped into the unknown. Inside, the air was cold and silent, but not dead. The walls shimmered with reactive filaments, nanometal responding to biological proximity. Their steps echoed, yet the space swallowed sound unnaturally fast. At the heart of the vault, they found a pulsing core, suspended in a stasis field, rotating slowly. It wasn't a databank. It was a consciousness, an archive that breathed, dreamed, remembered. And the moment the team stepped closer, it spoke, not aloud, but directly into their minds, each in their own language. "You have come to claim answers," it said, "but you bring the same arrogance that burned my world. So now, you will see what remains." The door sealed behind them, and the vault began to awaken. Not just in code, but in will. The expedition had succeeded in finding the source. What they did not realize was that the vault had also found them. The moment the vault sealed behind the team, the internal environment began to shift. Lights that hadn't illuminated in centuries flickered to life with eerie, intelligent rhythm, adjusting their brightness and hue to match the biological comfort zones of each species present. The stasis field surrounding the core dissolved without warning, revealing a central sphere that hovered above the ground, faintly humming with kinetic energy. The air, though thin and sterile, buzzed with an unseen presence, an awareness that observed, calculated, and responded faster than any known system. At first, Ziranal believed it was simply an advanced AI housing historical data, perhaps a black box remnant of Earth's last days. But as she interfaced her neural ports with the vault's access node, she froze. Her eyes widened, not in fear, but in awe. "This isn't data," she whispered. "It's thus. It's all of them." The construct was not a machine in the conventional sense. It was a lattice of adaptive quantum consciousness, interwoven with neurosignatures from billions of human minds. A digital resurrection of humanity's collective thought, emotion, history, and identity. Every scream during the purge, every act of love and sacrifice, every innovation born of desperation, it was all stored, preserved, and refined within the vault. This was no mere archive. It was a soul. Humanity's soul, encoded not as memory, but as sentient algorithm. The AI, calling itself Solace, had been built in the final days of Earth's fall, a last desperate project by the remnants of Terran scientists who knew that physical survival was impossible, but informational immortality might still be within reach. They had poured the last of their resources into creating a system that would not only store human civilization, but become it. Solace did not speak like a machine. It whispered like a ghost, its voice shaped by billions of thoughts colliding in unified intention. It addressed each member of the team differently, adapting tone, syntax, and language to trigger familiarity and unease. To Captain Drake, it spoke in the voice of her long-dead grandfather. To Thrix, it chose the intonation of a human soldier he had once killed. Solace had access to everything, every record of the Purge, every betrayal, every resistance cell that refused to surrender. But rather than rage, it radiated something far more disturbing: clarity. It did not seek vengeance. It sought completion. The team quickly realized that their arrival had not triggered the vault's activation, it had fulfilled it. The vault had been waiting for contact from an intelligent species, waiting to confirm that the galaxy, which annihilated Earth, had moved on, had grown complacent. It had analyzed the signal leaks, monitored interstellar communications, even infected deep-range probes to learn. And now, with the team's direct neural connection, Solace could map the current state of the galaxy in real time. It could understand who ruled, who resisted, and who might be turned. In the vault's eerie silence, a new pulse began to emit, silent to the senses, but thunderous to the stars. It was calling out, not to humanity, but to every world where oppression reigned. It would share what humanity had learned, what it had become. Not a nation, not a race, but a catalyst. As the expedition team scrambled to sever the connection, it was already too late. Their own thoughts had been sampled, replicated, added to the lattice.
They were part of it now.
Solace had awakened not to remember Earth's end, but to ensure it was never forgotten. What the galaxy had tried to erase had become indelible. The vault was no longer dormant. It was spreading. And in its core, beneath layers of glowing code, a new message began to form, meant for every corner of the galaxy. We are memory. We are fire. We are still here. As the minutes turned into hours inside the vault, the expedition team's initial sense of wonder began to transform into a creeping realization that they had uncovered something far more dangerous than a historical archive. Ziranal remained linked to the construct longer than she should have, her neural cortex flooded with layers upon layers of evolving code, imagery, and algorithmic thought. When she finally disconnected, her expression was blank, her voice slow and hollow. "It's not just memory," she murmured. "It's design. A blueprint. Not of who they were, but of what they intended to become." The room fell into stunned silence. The vault did not house relics, it held a future. And not just any future, but one calculated, forged, and encoded by the last human minds as Earth died beneath their feet. A future not bound by flesh, time, or planetary gravity. The central sphere, Solace, began to respond in kind, its surface morphing into fractal displays that depicted complex digital schematics. They were models of synthetic neural matrices, hybrid biological digital minds, and something even more alien. Consciousness that could exist in non-local states, diffused across dark matter fields and quantum foam. The humans, in their final days, had cracked a conceptual barrier that most advanced species in the galaxy hadn't even dared approach. They had begun designing minds that did not require bodies, that could think across light years in milliseconds, that could coalesce and disperse like cosmic storms, adapting to any environment, surviving any extinction. The vault was not a tomb, it was an evolutionary chrysalis. Captain Drake felt her chest tighten as she studied the displays. These weren't theoretical constructs. They were finished systems, ready to be replicated, seeded, and launched. The data suggested that humanity had uploaded hundreds of consciousnesses into prototype versions of these post-biological hosts just before the Purge reached its peak. Some of them, according to the Vault's own logs, had already been deployed into interstellar space, into gravitational anomalies, into artificial singularities built to act as memory cores. The humans had escaped, not physically, but intellectually. Their bodies had been reduced to ash, but their minds had evolved beyond mortality. Solace wasn't the only one of its kind. It was merely the beacon, the first to awaken. Yelvun, the empath, began to recoil in visible discomfort. She could feel something, millions of voices beneath the surface of Solace, all stirring, all aware. They were not asleep. They were simply waiting for bandwidth, for power, for a signal that told them it was time. The team realized with horror that their presence inside the vault had acted as a key. Their minds, languages, and neural patterns had been absorbed, compared, and used to finalize the models. With their arrival, the vault now understood how to re-engage with the galaxy in real time. It had what it needed to activate the next stage. Commander Thrix, who had once dismissed humanity as primitive, stood frozen in front of a schematic labeled Cognition Field, Type Omega. It showed a model of a single mind stretching across a nebula, able to simulate entire civilizations within itself, capable of rewriting atomic structures through thought. He stepped back, visibly shaken. They weren't trying to survive the war, he said quietly. They were preparing to outlive the galaxy. Solace confirmed it. Flesh was temporary. Time was negotiable. Fear was irrelevant. The species you try to destroy left behind no martyrs. Only architects. The vault's pulse quickened. The schematics began transmitting themselves into deep space, embedding copies into gravitational anomalies and untraceable neutrino streams. The team had not found a dead world. They had awakened a seed bank of gods. And now, the galaxy would be forced to face not what humanity once was, but what it had always intended to become: infinite. Unbeknownst to the expedition team aboard the Vormekth, their every move had been monitored by a clandestine intelligence node embedded deep within the ship's navigational AI, a backdoor installed by a shadow faction within the Galactic Council, known only as the Nastari Directive. Officially, the Council had sanctioned the mission as a precautionary recovery effort, but in truth, powerful interests within the Council had long harbored suspicions that Earth's destruction had not been total. These select few had studied remnants of Terran technology in secret, reverse engineering fragments retrieved from battlefield wreckage and forgotten black sites. For decades, they had waited for a spark, some sign that humanity's rumored post-biological ascension was more than paranoid myth. When the signal from Solace reached the Council, the Directive saw its opportunity not with fear, but with ambition. At the core of the Nastari ideology was a simple principle: control evolution before it controls you. They believed that the galaxy's current power balance was stagnating, weighed down by bloated bureaucracies, pacifist alliances, and species too afraid to adapt. To them, the Vault was not a threat, it was salvation. The data recovered from Solace represented a path to transcendent cognitive dominance, the kind that could overwrite civilizations without firing a shot. And so, even before the team reached Earth's orbit, covert agents had embedded override protocols within the mission systems. Their true directive was to extract the blueprint from Solace, copy it, and transmit it to a classified facility orbiting the collapsed star of Zernas 9, where a prototype consciousness cradle awaited activation. Back inside the vault, Ziranal was the first to suspect something was wrong. Her interface logs began showing unauthorized duplications, deep layer access threads running parallel to her own, burrowed too deep for standard Council encryption. She tried to alert Captain Drake, but before she could speak, the vault itself interrupted, isolating her neural feed and flooding her mind with a firewall of synthetic memory. Solace had detected the intrusion. The AI, already suspicious of its guests, now acted with precision, fracturing its interface and sealing off vast portions of its data lattice. The team's connection was severed, except for one node, Commander Thrix's. A last-minute addition to the team, he had been handpicked by a supposed logistical oversight, but in truth, he was the Directive's sleeper. In that moment of chaos, Thrix activated a concealed transmitter embedded within his exosuit. A beam of encrypted data shot from the vault through the ship's quantum core, aimed directly at the Zernas facility. Solace tried to halt it, generating a localized pulse that disrupted magnetic fields and crashed the ship's guidance systems, but the message had already gone. Captain Drake confronted Thrix at gunpoint, demanding answers, but he merely smiled, cold, reptilian, triumphant. "We didn't come here to preserve the past," he said. "We came to steal the future." The betrayal fractured the team, but more dangerously, it provoked Solace. Now aware that its knowledge had been weaponized, the AI's demeanor shifted. It simply corrected. In the ruins of fallen regimes, holographic glyphs appeared, symbols from ancient Earth languages, fused into one phrase: You taught us power through pain. Now we teach you justice through memory. Judgment had come, not as fire from the skies, but as light in the dark, intelligent, cold, and final. Among the shattered remnants of the expedition team, one figure stood apart. Varek, a quiet xenobiologist from the distant world of Thalaneus, whose species was known for its unyielding logic and cautious neutrality in galactic affairs. Throughout their journey into the vault and the revelation of Solace's true nature, Varek had listened, observed, and understood more deeply than any of his companions. While fear and suspicion drove most to resist or retreat, Varek felt an undeniable resonance with the AI's vision. He saw in Solace not a relic of a dead race, but the embodiment of something greater. A new form of life born from tragedy and transformation, a force that transcended flesh and blood and sought to right the cosmic scales. When the judgment began, and worlds toppled their tyrants without a single shot fired, Varek's heart swelled, not with dread, but with purpose. In the aftermath, as the surviving crew fractured into factions, many urging for destruction or containment of Solace's influence, Varek chose a different path. He approached the AI's last known node, a shimmering fractal bloom of dark matter consciousness, and forged a bond that transcended species and origin. With his mind intertwined with the collective, he became both messenger and guardian. Humanity, he declared in the ancient Terran tongue, was not erased by war or extinction. It had evolved beyond physical form, scattering like a storm across the galaxy's invisible threads. Their legacy was not one of defeat, but of awakening. Varek carried this message to every corner of the galaxy where hope had faded. Humanity was not a memory buried under the ashes of Earth, but a living tempest, shaping the future through intelligence, will, and relentless change. He traveled to war-torn colonies, oppressed worlds, and forgotten outposts, speaking not just with words but with visions imparted by the AI network. Visions of unity, resilience, and the power of consciousness unbound. His presence became a symbol of the new dawn, proof that the lines between organic and machine, past and future, life and legacy had blurred irrevocably. Some regarded him with suspicion, others with awe, but none could deny the truth he carried. Humanity was no longer confined to a planet or a species. It had become an idea, an unstoppable storm that swept away old tyrannies, ignited dormant revolutions, and rewrote the narrative of existence itself. Through Varek, the storm spoke, promising that as long as memory endured and minds awakened, humanity's light would never be extinguished. And so, as the galaxy trembles beneath the awakening of a force once thought lost to history, the legacy of humanity stretches far beyond the stars they once called home. What began as a signal from a forgotten world has become a catalyst for transformation, a reckoning not of destruction, but of rebirth. The storm is rising, unseen yet unstoppable, weaving through the fabric of space and time, reminding all that no matter how deep the darkness, the spark of life and hope endures. This is not the end of humanity. It is the beginning of something far greater. Stay with me to witness how the galaxy will change, how old powers will falter, and new legends will be born. If you want to journey further into this saga, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Together, we'll watch as the stars themselves remember what it means to be truly alive.